My daughter yelled into the phone, "Mom, why are strangers taking everything out of my bedroom?" I smiled, sitting in my new apartment, surrounded by people who actually wanted to hang out with me. "Sweetheart," I said calmly, "it's not your bedroom anymore. I sold it." I'm Donna Mitchell, and I'm 72. Before I dive into this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your city or state in the comments. I always wonder who's listening to an old woman's story about finally putting herself first. Let me take you back to where it all started. For 37 years, I lived in the same house on Maple Street. It was a lovely four-bedroom colonial with a wraparound porch, the kind of place you see in those classic American living magazines. My late husband, Robert, and I bought it when I was pregnant with our first child. We raised three kids there: Lauren, Michael, and Stephanie. Every room had its own memories: the kitchen where I taught them to bake, the living room where we opened Christmas gifts, and the backyard where Robert built a treehouse that somehow never fell apart. When Robert passed away 6 years ago from a sudden heart attack, I thought my world had ended. We were supposed to grow old together and travel, finally do all those things we'd put off while raising kids. Instead, I was alone in that big house, rattling around like a ghost. I kept telling myself it was okay. I had my kids. They'd visit, and we'd still have Sunday dinners. The house would still be filled with laughter and love, just in a different way. I was so naive. In the first year after Robert died, they did come around. Lauren would stop by every few weeks, Michael would come for dinner once a month, and Stephanie, who lived closest, would pop in occasionally. But I could see it in their eyes: obligation. They were just checking the box for visiting their grieving mom. By the second year, the visits became less frequent. Once a month turned into every couple of months, and phone calls that used to be weekly became sporadic texts. "Busy with work, Mom. The kids have so many activities. We'll come by soon. Promise." I tried to understand. They had their own lives and struggles. Lauren was a real estate attorney with two teenage boys into competitive soccer. Michael ran his own accounting firm and was always swamped with work during tax season, which seemed to last 9 months. Stephanie was a nurse working long shifts, raising her 10-year-old daughter alone after her divorce. But understanding didn't ease my loneliness. I started calling more, maybe once every few days, just to hear their voices and feel connected to the family I had built my whole adult life around. I'd invite them over for dinner, saying, "I'm making pot roast, your favorite," or "I baked those chocolate chip cookies you love." But that's when the complaints started. It was Stephanie who said it first. We were on the phone, and I asked when she might visit. "Mom," she said, her voice tight with frustration, "you need to stop guilt-tripping us about visits. I work 60 hours a week. I'm exhausted. I can't drop everything every time you're feeling lonely." Guilt-tripping? That hit me hard. "I'm not trying to guilt-trip you," I said quietly. "I just miss you." "Well, it feels like guilt-tripping," she snapped. "Every time we talk, it's 'when are you coming over?' We have real lives, Mom, real responsibilities. We can't always put you first." I apologized, of course. I told her I understood and would try to do better. But after I hung up, I sat in that empty house and cried for 2 hours straight. A week later, I called Lauren to see if she and her family wanted to come for Sunday dinner. I hadn't seen them in 6 weeks. Her response was almost identical to Stephanie's. "Mom, seriously, you have to stop this. We're not kids anymore living under your roof. We're adults with our own families. I know you're lonely, but you can't make us feel bad about living our lives." "I'm not trying to make you feel bad," I protested. "But you are," she insisted. "Every invitation feels like an accusation. We're not terrible children for not being there every second. Dad's been gone 6 years, Mom. At some point, you need to build your own life instead of waiting for us to fill the void." Those words cut deeper than anything Stephanie had said. Build my own life? As if the life I'd built around my family didn't count. Michael was gentler when he finally addressed it, but the message was the same. "Mom, I love you, but you need to give us some space. We'll come visit when we can, but your calls make us want to come less, not more. It's pressure, and we don't need more pressure in our lives." So I stopped. I stopped calling except for birthdays and holidays. I stopped inviting them over. I became exactly what they wanted: a mother who didn't inconvenience them with her loneliness. The house felt even emptier after that. I'd walk past their old bedrooms, preserved just as they left them. Lauren's room still had her high school volleyball trophies. Michael's had his baseball cards. Stephanie's walls were still painted the purple she chose when she was 14. I kept everything, thinking they'd want these pieces of their childhood, but months went by without a single visit. Almost a year. I saw their lives on Facebook. Lauren's boys at soccer tournaments, Michael at charity golf events, Stephanie taking her daughter to the zoo. All these moments I wasn't part of. I wasn't even hurt anymore. I was numb. One morning, I really looked at that big house. 4 bedrooms for one person, a dining room table for 8 where I ate alone every night, a yard I paid someone to maintain because I couldn't do it myself anymore. Thousands of dollars in property taxes and maintenance for what? To preserve shrine bedrooms for kids who made it clear they had real lives without me. That's when I called my former colleague, Patricia Chen, who had become a real estate agent after retiring from teaching. "Patricia," I said, "I want to sell my house." There was a pause. "Are you sure, Donna? That's a big decision." "I've never been more sure of anything." We listed it on a Thursday. By Saturday, I had 3 offers. The market was hot, and a well-maintained 4-bedroom in a good school district was gone in a week. I accepted an offer $15,000 over asking price. I didn't tell my kids, not when I listed it, not when I accepted the offer, not when I started packing. Why would I? They'd made it clear that my life was my business as long as I didn't bother them about it. I hired an estate sale company to handle most of the furniture, keeping only what would fit in a 1-bedroom apartment. The rest, all those carefully preserved memories, went to strangers who actually wanted it. The bedrooms were packed up by professionals, and I shipped everything to storage units, one for each kid, paid up for 6 months. They could decide what to do with it all. I found a lovely senior living community called Riverside Gardens. It wasn't a nursing home. It was independent living for active seniors. 1-bedroom apartments, a community center, activities, and a dining room where I could eat with others instead of alone. The woman who gave me the tour, Marie, was about my age and had the warmest smile. "You'll love it here," she said. "We have book clubs, painting classes, day trips. There's always something happening." That sounded wonderful, and I meant it. I moved in on a Tuesday. My new apartment was on the 3rd floor with a view of the gardens. It was smaller than my old house, but it was mine. More importantly, it was filled with people who genuinely wanted to spend time with me. Within the first week, I joined the book club and met Helen, a retired librarian with a wicked sense of humor. At my first painting class, I sat next to Dorothy, a former art teacher who'd lived in 7 different countries. We had coffee the next day and talked for 3 hours. For the first time in 6 years, I didn't feel lonely. The closing on the house was scheduled for exactly 30 days after I accepted the offer. I was in my new apartment for almost 2 weeks when my phone rang. It was Lauren. "Hey, Mom," she said, sounding cheerful. "I know it's been a while, but the boys have a break from soccer next weekend, and I thought we might come visit. Maybe Sunday lunch?" My heart raced. "That's sweet of you to offer, Lauren, but I'm actually busy next Sunday." She sounded surprised. I never used to be busy. "Okay, what about Saturday then? I have plans Saturday too. There's a day trip to a museum I signed up for." "A day trip with who?" "Some friends." "Friends," she said, like the concept was foreign. "New friends I've made." There was a long pause. "Well, okay, what about the Sunday after that? I'll have to check my calendar and get back to you." Another pause. "Mom, is everything okay? You sound different." "Everything's fine, Lauren. I'm just following your advice, building my own life." We hung up shortly after. I could tell she was confused, but I didn't elaborate. 3 days later, the moving truck arrived at the old house to empty out the last of the contents for the new owners. This was the day before closing. My phone rang at 2 p.m. It was Stephanie, nearly hysterical. "Mom, what the hell is going on? I just drove by the house, and there are movers there. They're emptying everything." I took a sip of my tea, sitting in the community room with Helen and Dorothy. "Yes, the new owners are moving in tomorrow." "New owners? What are you talking about?" "I sold the house, Stephanie." The silence on the other end was deafening, then almost in a whisper. You sold it? Yes. When? Why didn't you tell us? I sold it about a month ago, and I didn't tell you because my life and my decisions aren't your concern. Those were your words, weren't they? That you have real lives and can't always put me first. That's not, Mom. That's completely different. That was our childhood home. No, I corrected her gently. It was my house. You grew up there. Yes, but you moved out 20 years ago. It hasn't been your home in a very long time. Where are you? Where are you living? I'm in a lovely apartment at Riverside Gardens. It's a senior living community. Senior living? She was practically screaming. Now you put yourself in a home without even discussing it with us. It's not a home, Stephanie. It's independent living. And why would I discuss it with you? You made it very clear that you're too busy with your real life to be bothered with mine. I cannot believe you're doing this, Stephanie said. This is insane. You're being petty and spiteful. I'm being practical. That house was too big for one person, too expensive to maintain, and filled with nothing but memories of a family that couldn't be bothered to visit. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you came to see me, Stephanie? 4 months ago. 5. You live 20 minutes away. She was crying now. You're my mother. You're supposed to. I'm supposed to what? Wait around in that big empty house hoping you might grace me with a visit? Keep your childhood bedrooms as shrines? I'm done doing that. I have a new life now with people who actually want to spend time with me. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but Helen reached over and squeezed my hand. Good for you, she said firmly. Within an hour, all 3 of my children were calling. I didn't answer. They left voicemails, each one a variation of shock, hurt, and anger. How could I do this? How could I sell the family home without telling them? Where were their things? What about the grandkids? I texted them a group message. All of your belongings have been packed and placed in storage units. I'll send you the addresses and access codes. You have 6 months to collect everything or make other arrangements. Michael called immediately. I answered, Mom, please, can we just talk about this? I know we haven't been the best about visiting, but selling the house seems extreme. What's extreme, Michael, is maintaining a 4-bedroom house for 37 years and having my own children tell me I'm guilt-tripping them when I ask them to visit once a month. What's extreme is being 72 years old and eating dinner alone every single night in a house meant for a family. We didn't mean to make you feel that way, but you did. All 3 of you made it abundantly clear that I was an inconvenience, that my loneliness was my problem to solve, not yours to help with. So I solved it by selling our childhood home without even telling you. It stopped being your home when you told me to stop guilt-tripping you about visits. A home is supposed to be where your family is. You made it very clear you didn't consider it your home anymore. There was a long silence, then quietly, Where do we go from here, Mom? That's up to you, Michael. You all wanted me to build my own life and stop depending on you for companionship. I've done exactly that. I have friends here, I have activities, I have a community. I'm happier than I've been in 6 years. Can we at least see your new place? When I'm ready to have you visit, I'll let you know. Right now, I'm busy settling in and enjoying my new life. You know, the real life you told me I needed to build. I hung up again. The closing happened the next day without a hitch. I signed the papers, accepted a check for $847,000 after paying off the mortgage and fees, and walked out a free woman. That money went straight into investments and a high-yield savings account. I was set for the rest of my life. The monthly cost at Riverside Gardens was covered by my Social Security and Robert's pension. The rest of the money would be there for whatever I needed, travel, hobbies, or just security. My kids kept calling, but I took my time responding. I wasn't trying to punish them. I was simply prioritizing my own life the way they prioritized theirs. Lauren showed up at Riverside Gardens unannounced about a week after closing. The receptionist called up to my apartment. There's a Lauren Mitchell here to see you. Should I send her up? I thought about it for a moment. Tell her I'll meet her in the lobby in 15 minutes. When I came down, Lauren was pacing. She looked tired and stressed. When she saw me, her face crumpled. Mom, she said, tears in her voice. We sat in the visiting area, a nice little room with comfy chairs and a view of the gardens. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I'm so sorry for what I said about the guilt tripping and about you needing to build your own life. I was stressed and overwhelmed and took it out on you." "I know you were stressed, Lauren. You all were. That's exactly why I made the decision. I sold the house not as revenge, but because maintaining it for kids who clearly moved on made no sense. I wasn't preserving a home. I was preserving a fantasy that we'd all still be a close family. But we're not, are we?" She looked down at her hands. "I thought we were. When was the last time we had Sunday dinner together? When was the last time you brought the boys over just to visit, not because it was a holiday?" She couldn't answer. "I'm not angry at you, Lauren. I'm not angry at any of you. I'm just done making myself small to avoid inconveniencing you. I spent 6 years being lonely and sad, trying to be the mother who didn't ask for too much. But you know what? I deserve more than that. I deserve to be around people who are happy to see me, not people who view my company as an obligation." "We never viewed you as an obligation." "Didn't you?" Every invitation was met with excuses. Every phone call felt like an intrusion. You literally told me to stop guilt tripping you about visits. "I know, and I regret it. We all do. We've been talking, the three of us. We realize we took you for granted. We assumed you'd always be there, waiting in that house whenever we finally had time. We didn't think about how lonely you must have been." "You're right. You didn't think about it, and I can't fault you for that entirely. You had your own lives and problems. But the consequence of that is I had to make a decision about my life, and I chose to surround myself with people who actively want to spend time with me. Can we try again? Can we do better?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was 42, with gray streaks in her hair she hadn't had a year ago. She looked genuinely remorseful. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I'm not closing the door on our relationship, Lauren, but I'm also not going to sit around waiting for you to find time for me. I have my own life now, friends, activities, plans. If you want to be part of my life, you're going to have to make an actual effort, not just show up when guilt or shock motivates you." "I understand." "Do you?" "Because it's not about weekly visits or grand gestures. It's about consistency. It's about making me feel like I matter to you, not just like I'm something to check off your list." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I get it, Mom. I really do." We talked for another hour. I showed her my apartment, introduced her to Helen and Dorothy, who were heading to dinner. She saw the community board with all the activities listed and the painting class sign-up sheet with my name on it. "You really do have a whole life here," she said, a sense of wonder in her voice. "I do, and I love it." When she left, she hugged me tight. "I'll call you," she said. "Really? Call you, not just text." "We'll see," I said. Michael came to visit 2 days later, and his conversation was similar to Lauren's. Apologies, regrets, promises to do better. I gave him the same response. I wasn't closing the door, but I wasn't waiting by it either. Stephanie took the longest to come around. She was angry for weeks, leaving voicemails accusing me of being selfish, of abandoning the family, of throwing away decades of memories for what? Some strangers at an old folks' home. I didn't respond. I was too busy living my life. I took a pottery class and made the ugliest vase you've ever seen. Dorothy and I laughed about it for days. I joined a walking group that went around the local park every morning. I discovered I loved watercolor painting and went on a day trip to a winery with 15 other residents, having the best time. I was happy, genuinely, truly happy. About 6 weeks after the house sold, Stephanie finally came to visit. She didn't call ahead, she just showed up like Lauren had. The receptionist called up. This time, I almost didn't agree to see her, but I did. She looked terrible, eyes red and puffy like she'd been crying for days. We sat in the same visiting room where I'd talked with Lauren. "I've been horrible to you," she said without preamble. "Not just about the house, for years. I made you feel like you were a burden when you're my mother and just wanted to see me." "Yes," I said simply, "you did. I don't know how to fix this. I'm not sure you can, Stephanie, at least not right away." She flinched. "Are you saying you don't want a relationship with me?" "I'm saying that relationships take work, and for 6 years, I was the only one working. I reached out, I invited, I tried, and I was told I was guilt tripping you, that you had a real life and I needed to build my own. So I did. I was wrong. Yes, you were. But more than that, you were hurtful. You made me feel like my grief, my loneliness, my desire to be close to my family was something shameful, something I needed to hide so I wouldn't inconvenience you. She broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. Part of me wanted to comfort her like I always had, but another part of me, the part that spent 6 years crying alone in that big house, stayed where I was. I'm not going to apologize for selling the house, I said. I'm not going to apologize for moving here, and I'm not going to apologize for finally putting myself first. I don't want you to apologize, she said through her tears. I want to apologize. I want to be better. I want to be the daughter you deserve. Then be that daughter. Not just today. Not just because you're shocked that I actually took action. Be that daughter consistently. She looked up at me. Can I start now? And here's what surprised me. Part of me wanted to say no, wanted to make her hurt the way I had. But I'd learned something in these weeks at Riverside Gardens, surrounded by new friends and experiences. Holding on to pain doesn't heal it, it just makes you bitter. You can start now, I said. But Stephanie, I mean it. This isn't about grand gestures or guilt. It's about showing up consistently, whether I'm in a crisis or not. She nodded. Can I take you to lunch? We went to a small cafe nearby. We talked for 2 hours, really talked, not just surface stuff. She shared her struggles as a single mother, how exhausted she was, and how she'd been so focused on surviving that she'd stopped thinking about anything else. I listened. I understood, but I also didn't excuse it. Being busy is valid. Being overwhelmed is real. But you know what? I was busy too. I raised 3 kids, worked part-time, and took care of your father when he was sick. We all have struggles, Stephanie. That doesn't mean we get to neglect the people who love us. She absorbed that quietly. That was 3 months ago. I'm still at Riverside Gardens and I still love it. Helen and I take pottery class together every Thursday. Dorothy and I painted a landscape last week that's actually hanging in my apartment. I've been on 4-day trips with the group here, and next month we're taking a 3-day excursion to Asheville. My kids are trying, really trying. Lauren calls every Sunday evening. We talk for about 30 minutes, and it's not forced anymore. She brought the boys to visit last month, and they seemed genuinely interested in my painting class. One of them wants to try pottery. Michael comes by every other week for coffee. We sit in the garden here and just chat about his work, my activities, and life. It's nice. It's real. Stephanie has been the most consistent, which surprised me. She comes every week, sometimes just for an hour on her way home from work. She met Helen and Dorothy and actually enjoyed their company. Last week, she brought her daughter, and watching Emma explore the gardens here made me realize something. My grandkids don't need shrine bedrooms in a house full of ghosts. They need a grandmother who's happy and present, and that's what I am now. Do I regret selling the house? Not for a second. That house was a beautiful part of my past, but it was keeping me trapped there. I'm 72 years old, and I finally learned that it's okay to choose yourself. It's okay to say I deserve better and actually do something about it. My kids learned something too. They learned that I'm not just mom, waiting in the wings for whenever they have time. I'm Donna. I'm a person with my own life, my own friends, my own joy, and I won't settle for crumbs of attention from anyone, not even my own children. The house on Maple Street belongs to someone else now, a young family with 3 kids who will make their own memories there. I hope they're happy like we once were. As for me, I'm happy right where I am, surrounded by friends who choose to spend time with me, living a life that's full, rich, and mine. And that's worth more than any house could ever be. Kindly subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.